if you didn't catch this, and I feel like I was really on the front end of this because it was within 30 minutes of the post going up. But this past Friday, the Smashing Pumpkins just posted this on their social channels. It says, the Smashing Pumpkins are in search of an additional guitarist. The application process is open to anyone who might be interested. Applicants may submit a resume and related materials to an email at redlightmanagement.com, which is a very prestigious management firm in the music industry. Yep. I feel so bad for whoever got that email address. They're waiting through a bunch of stuff.
They are.
But at the end of the day, the Smashing Pumpkins are doing an open call guitar player audition for a third auxiliary guitar player. If you aren't familiar with their current touring situation, they had a third guitar player named Jordan Schroeder, who left the band at the end of October for personal reasons. It seemed like he was probably tired of being on the road because, let's just go ahead and put it out there, touring can suck. It's not always fun.
Yeah.
And so some people just want to kind of get off of that roller coaster and find some more normalcy. Mm-hmm. So these guys they're on the hunt. And instead of doing it, through normal industry channels, they've
networking or whatever they do.
Yeah, they've opted to do it for the public. And the big question for me is why? Why would they do that?
Right.
And in the process of thinking this through and talking with folks and kind of speculating, we've landed on a couple of reasons. I think the first one goes without saying. It's for publicity.
For sure. No, I mean, you said it. The person who has to answer all that email, they're going to get a ton of email from a ton of people, some of whom will be, I bet 2% of them will be qualified. And the rest will be...
I think that's being generous.
Yeah. I mean, I have put openings for jobs on public things, and 2% is even qualified enough to have a conversation, and the rest are just people shotgunning stuff. And so, there'll be a lot of Smashing Pumpkins fans out there who are like, "Oh yeah, man, that'd be so cool," and they're gonna send a video of themselves playing "Smoke on the Water" or something. I don't know. No, they'll probably pick something from the Smashing Pumpkins catalog and do it badly and send it in, and then somebody has to wade through that nonsense.
You have to wade through those.
Yeah.
So in talking about this particular situation, I had a lot of people reach out and say this is very similar to what Limp Bizkit did back in like the early 2000s. When Wes Borland left the band, they were doing the same. They were basically like touring around to guitar centers and jamming. They were doing like these guitar contests, and then you got to jam with Limp Bizkit. The tricky part though is that in getting the opportunity to play with Limp Bizkit, anything that you brought them and anything that was recorded belonged to them immediately, and you had no control over it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So they basically were able to just like jack a bunch of riffs from like hundreds of guitar players. And some would say that they're still using those, riffs to this day, but
it's crowdsourcing. That's what it is.
It's neither here nor there. Yeah. So I think publicity is a big part of it because again, I can't remember the last time this many people were talking about Smashing Pumpkins.
For sure. Well, listen, let me say this. I'm not particularly a Smashing Pumpkins fan. I was aware of them when they were in the zeitgeist, which has been a while. I certainly couldn't name check the guitarist who left the band. I'm not a fan like that. I like the joke from the Simpsons episode,
Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins.
Homer Simpson, smiling politely.
That's kind of where I am about Smashing Pumpkins. So this is the biggest they've been on my radar in decades, frankly.
Well, the last big thing that I can remember was when they did the Disney Christmas special this year.
Yeah.
A lot of folks were going like, that's weird.
Well,
I
wasn't even aware of that.
It's a chronically online situation, but
Yeah. So the point is, for publicity wise, it's working. It got my attention, and I'm like so on the periphery of anybody who might be paying attention to them, but I was aware of it. So it's interesting.
There's also some Billy Corgan PR because like he's not always had a glowing reputation as a nice guy.
Yeah.
And frankly, that reputation is enough for me to like not even entertain the idea of doing something like that, because the prospect of having Billy Corgan as a boss,
as your boss,
that doesn't seem great.
No.
And it kind of points into I think the real conversation that needs to be had. And before we go any further, let's go ahead and say the quiet part out loud. This is a cover gig.
Oh yeah.
Like your job is to go in and play Smashing Pumpkins covers.
Yeah.
Because you didn't write them. And granted, you're playing with the greatest Smashing Pumpkins tribute of all time.
The guys themselves.
The guys themselves.
But if you think you're going to be part of writing their next album, no.
The likelihood of that is not zero.
But not high.
Yeah. For sure. And to me, I know enough about this stuff that typically when a guitar player leaves, they're going to do auditions, but those auditions are done behind closed doors.
Right.
And they're done among a network of players.
Oh, and there's a handful of people that they were aware they were out there and looking for gigs and might be a good fit, and they call them special, and those people have representation and management, and there's like a whole channel for all this stuff. It's usually how that's done.
Right. And that's not happening here.
Apparently not.
So why is that the case? Let's take another example. Let's talk about Motley Crue. So Mick Mars left the group under circumstances we won't get into, and they replaced him with John Five. Well, John Five is a fantastic guitar player, well known in the community. With that comes a certain expectation of compensation. So when he gets the opportunity to join Motley Crue, he understands and they understand what he provides to them outside of just his technical ability or his ableness to replicate the material. He's also got a certain cachet, star power that comes with hiring a guy like him. When you're hiring somebody who is a complete unknown or a relative unknown, you have all the leverage.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay you as much. They don't have to offer you as many perks. And so they could have easily hired a Dave Navarro, but Dave Navarro comes with Dave Navarro money and Dave Navarro problems. Well, you hire a nobody and there are no problems.
Yeah.
You know, your job, if you are a person sitting at home and you decide to send your tape in and get that gig, your job is to replicate the material as close to the record as possible and say, yes, sir, no, sir.
That's right.
And
that's right. And be glad for the opportunity to say yes or no, sir. We're not replacing Jerry Garcia with John Mayer here. This is not like a known quantity coming into whoever takes this gig needs to be really clear. They have no leverage. They are a yes or no, sir machine.
And there's a couple of thoughts around that. So when you look at an opportunity like this, because there have been plenty of legendary musicians who have been pulled from obscurity. You know,
yeah, sure.
Zakk Wylde was not a known entity when he joined Ozzy's band.
Right.
There are all of these stories of these people who are just kind of
discovered
plucked from their existence. Yeah, 100%. And so it doesn't mean that you can't have a career after that. And a lot of people that I talk to were like, well, if they're just doing this to get the publicity, then you just take advantage of that opportunity and just squeeze it for everything you got. Get your endorsements, make your contacts, get your sponsorships, and get your machine set up so that whenever you decide to send in your resignation, you know, you've got something to fall back on.
That's right. We call it riding the gravy train.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a way to go about that. But like, here's the thing. I'm in my early 40s and I'm 15 years younger than these guys.
Right.
I just don't have the energy to put up with that or deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to find anybody that is going to make sense on a promo picture.
Yeah.
That hasn't been through the ringer enough to not necessarily want a gig like that.
Will this guitarist even be in the promo photo? Like they're not, I can't think of them as like a core member. They're an accessory player, right? They're a hired gun. And so it's interesting whether you'd be thought of as like core, I'm a Smashing Pumpkin.
Well, and I think context matters because the guy who left was a very integral part of their process.
Okay.
I mean, he was with the group for over a decade, I believe. So, you know, there's something to be said about that. But other than the fact that like you would basically get to go from playing small venues in your hometown to like much bigger places.
Right.
I don't know what the rest of it would look like.
Well, and I ask this in ignorance. How much bigger? Are they doing stadium tours, Smashing Pumpkins?
They're doing, I think they're doing sheds, you know, they're doing like your amphitheaters and those kinds of, like they're not playing, you know, state fairs at this point.
All right.
They're still doing okay.
Okay. All right. Good.
You know, they can go out on a package tour and do all right.
Yeah.
The thing that people need to understand is that being on tour is about the 23 hours in the day that you are not doing the thing that you were hired to do.
Right.
And that's what you've got to be okay with, because some things are fun and some things are a lot of fun, but you've got to really love that 1 hour on stage to put up with the other 23 in any circumstance.
Yeah.
Not even like that's not a dig on anybody in their camp or anything like that. That's just in general. It's a lot. So I would be surprised if they actually pick an unknown. I think this is mostly a publicity thing. I think the person that gets the gig may not be, the same tier as them, but probably busy around the industry already. But who knows? They could pull somebody out of nowhere and this could be their launching path to, a great career. And I hope that's true.
Yeah.
I hope the cynic in me does not win in this situation.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Best of luck to all of you out there. Send in your audition tapes. And who knows? Maybe the person who gets the gig is somebody in our audience.
That would be so cool. I'd love to hear about that.
And listen, if you're out there and you get that gig, we will interview you and we'll let you spill all the tea. It's going to be fantastic.
Assuming you're not under an NDA from Drop.
Which you probably are.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. But yeah, talking about experience and stuff, there was a period of time where folks were getting flown out to LA to sing for what was then just a super group that became Velvet Revolver.
Huh.
I knew a couple of guys who got that call. But at the end of the day, all of those guys ended up staying at home and Scott Weiland got the gig. So it is what it is.
Yeah, there's no promise that the actual hire is going to come from the open cattle call here. So
right.
Who knows?
That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
So, like I said, good luck and
Godspeed.
yep, on all those things.